Hello and welcome to another episode of Earth911 Sustainability in Your Ear. It's Earth Day week, and we're going to be talking about recycling, particularly recycling of e-waste. E-waste accounts for about 53.6 million tons of waste annually. That was as of 2019. And by 2030, it's expected to rise to 74 million tons. That's twice the amount discarded just 7 years ago. So this is a problem that is getting more pressing all the time. And in fact, only 17.4% of e-waste was recycled globally. In the United States, computer and smartphone companies, they're starting to address the issue, but TVs, appliances, small electronics, including all sorts of audio components and even alarm clocks, are still poorly collected and recycled. But there's a lot of progress on the PC and smartphone front. And today we're talking with Charles Brennick, who's the Director of Business Development and eCommerce at Seattle-based 3R Technology. It's an electronics recycler that also refurbishes and resells PCs, laptops, phones, and monitors. Welcome to the show, Charles. How are you today?
Oh, fantastic. Thanks for the invitation, Mitch.
Glad to have you here. Now, listen, there's a lot here to cover, but let's try to unpack first. What are the environmental benefits of recycling an old PC or phone?
Well, let me just start out with a statistic about the environmental benefits. But for every ton of e-waste collected and recycled, you avoid releasing 1.5 tons of CO2 emissions into the atmosphere. So at the very start, recycling a PC, cell phone, or any other electronic is a great way to reduce greenhouse emission. Obviously, we have this problem with greenhouse warming, and this is just one small thing that people can do to help solve that problem. And obviously computers, phones, those sorts of things are made out of raw materials like aluminum, steel, things that are rare. And when we recycle, we're able to extract those materials again and use them for different items. Recycling is important. Like I said, we're able to get the materials to use for using for other items, but also the reuse aspect as well is super important. So when an item is brought to 3R, we either recycle it or reuse it. And when I talk about reuse, it's about reusing it for its original purpose, essentially refurbishing the computer, wiping the hard drive, and then making it available to people for.
Well, so the benefit then of reusing, particularly because you guys focus on refurbishing rather than taking all the components apart and piecing them out. That's an important way for a consumer to lower their footprint because they don't have something made from brand new materials. So just by doubling the life of the device, you are really more than having the CO2 emissions associated with it. Let me ask you this. Now, we hear a lot about the value of materials in the phone. What is valuable in a smartphone, for example?
So various different metals. So kind of out of the gate, there's copper, a lot of copper in phones, computers, pretty much any type of electronic has copper. Aluminum, steel, palladium, different types of metals. And obviously there's gold. Not so much in the phones, a little bit more in the computers. And in fact, there used to be a lot of gold in the computers. I've been doing this been involved in the recycling business for 20 years. And it used to be, the old Pentium 1, Pentium 2 computers had these big giant chips in them. And the back of the chip was just, gold plated, and the little finger connectors were all gold plated too. So they were worth a lot of money. But not so much anymore. They figured out ways to, make computers cheaper by reducing the amount of metals and so forth. But for every million cell phones that are recycled, you can recover 35,000 pounds of copper, about 700 pounds of silver, and 75 pounds of gold, and about 33 pounds of palladium. And that stats from the EPA. So. There's a lot of metals, and obviously that's why it's important to recycle these items and use them again.
So let's talk about what somebody should do before they recycle a PC or a phone. What are the steps you should take to protect both your privacy and to ensure that the device is going to be successfully recycled?
So I would suggest the first thing that should be done is wiping the data. Obviously we keep a lot of information on our devices. We have our phone numbers of friends. We have personal information. We got our old emails. All that stuff is on our devices. Now, it's relatively simple to do it on computers. There's a lot of products out there for wiping data. There's a great product called software product called killdisk.com. It's free. You can download it. You just install the software and it wipes. If you don't know how to do that, you can always pull the hard drive. It's sometimes easy in older computers. The newer stuff, especially on the MacBooks, it's all kind of sealed together, so it's a little tough. But it can be done, and then recyclers don't need it. We don't need it. You can pull the hard drive. It doesn't matter. Now, if you don't know how to do any of that, look for a company that can essentially do it for you. Now, most recycling reuse companies will do this because it's just part of the business. If the company doesn't have a data destruction policy in place, then you should probably look somewhere else. Here at 3R, we have what's called NAID certification. And so that's the National Association of Information Destruction certification. That just means our process has been audited. Company comes in here and just make sure that we're handling devices securely. We're putting them in a cage, before they get destroyed, and we're making sure that it, there's no data basically that's left on the device. And we even shred, we put hard drives through shredders and make sure that it can never be used again. So that's the biggest thing. Yeah.
That's important. I often hear people say, well, I'm concerned about sending my phone and my PC in because my data is on it. And it's pretty easy to wipe data, as you were calling out. But
yeah, and one thing I'll add is, like I said, I've been doing this for a while, and it used to be that the biggest concern that people had, in the past was I don't want my stuff to get exported, or I don't want it to end up in a landfill or whatever, which is still super valid concerns. But the biggest thing now is data. It's all about data, and what happens to the data on my device, and how do you handle it, and it's a big issue.
Well, you make this pretty easy for people. You've got this program called Simply Cycle, or Simple Cycle. I'm not sure how you say it because you've got a cap E in the middle. But you send a prepaid shipping label and even a box for sending along a bunch of different stuff, not just one product at a time. How do listeners get in touch with you and send material to you using your Simply Cycle program?
Yeah, well, first we're trying to call it Simply Cycle. So
okay.
We had a couple of iterations, Simple eCycle, but I think we're landing on Simply Cycle, and basically it's we're calling it that because it's simple. So this all started during the COVID pandemic. There's a lot of companies, a lot of individuals working at home. Right. And they got no way. Well, it's not like they don't have no way, but it's a bit of a hassle to bring in materials, or they want to maintain social distance. And so I thought, well, what's a good way or an easy way for people to recycle and still kind of maintain the distance? And so we came up with this program, and basically it allows people to mail us items like phones and computers and other electronics by mail. And all you got to do is go to our website. We have a special landing page, simple.3rtechnology.com. You fill out the form. You get a label. You put that label on a box. You put your stuff in a box, and you send it to us for recycling. We also provide free boxes. So if you don't have a box, we'll ship you one. And phones and laptops are free. So there's no cost. And so that we're doing that because obviously we want to try and get more material. We want to provide people with an easy way to recycle. And obviously, right now is just, something that everybody needs is a way to recycle. So basically it's recycling by mail, and it's open to anybody in the nation. So, anybody can take part in it.
Now there's a couple of different e-waste recycling standards or certifications, eStewards and R2. Which one does R3 use as the basis for the process with you?
So 3R technology, we're what's called R2 certified. So a little confusing there. 3R is R2. And so there's two main certifications, and one is the R2 certification, and the next one is eSteward. They're really similar. One is a little more stringent, I guess, when it relates to kind of reuse and what you can do with them, with the items. That's the eSteward one. R2 is a little more flexible when it comes to reuse, but they're both have very kind of tight guidelines related to, where you can send the material and can it get exported? Right. And it's they're both valuable. They're both really beneficial for the industry, and pretty much anyone who's of any significance in this industry has either R2 or eSteward certification. And that's one thing to think about when you want to recycle computers is, look for their certification. A lot of companies out there, it doesn't take a whole lot to start this type of a business. If you have a truck, you can go around, you can pick up computers, but if you want to work with a company that's legit, like I said, look for one.
There's a big difference. There's a big difference between calling a junk hauler and calling somebody who's going to treat the material responsibly, particularly with regard to the data.
Yep, 100%. Yep.
So now, what percentage of the devices that you receive would you say actually get refurbished and resold as compared to recycled?
So one thing about kind of the unique thing about 3R is our main focus is reuse, and that's not only is it good for the environment, but it's just also good for our business, because obviously if you reuse and resell a computer, it generates more revenue than just recycling and selling the scrap metals. Mm-hmm. So we try and reuse as much as possible. I would say about 70% of all the computers we received are refurbished and reused. We for those computers that we can't reuse, we disassemble them, essentially take them apart. We do recycling in-house. Right. And that means we just, like I said, we take the computers apart. We the motherboards go in one bucket and CPUs go in another, and then all the steel, goes in another big box. And so reuse first, and then that we can't reuse, refurbish, we recycle.
But you also will refurbish a motherboard if you can't recycle the whole PC, as I understand it.
Yeah. We sell a lot of parts. Mm-hmm. So we have a very active, I guess, eCommerce, eBay store. We sell parts, so, CPU, RAM, all those things. So
do you guys work with electronics companies to recycle the products they make? Do you see increasing collaboration going on between the manufacturers and the recyclers?
Well, so not directly. So it's not like we have a direct partnership with Sony or Dell or something like that. But we do. We are part of this program. It's called Washington State eCycle Program. And basically the manufacturers like Dell and Sony, they pay into this pool, which is managed by the Washington Materials Management Association. They essentially give funds to this organization to cover the costs for items that get for electronics that get recycled. So in other words, Dell will pay X amount of money or give funds to Washington Materials Management to cover the cost for recycling. And so that's why here in Washington State, you can take a TV, computer, monitor to any organization that's involved in this program and recycle it for free. And there's a lot of other states that are doing the same. So this is pretty standard, I guess, across the U.S.
This extended producer responsibility approach is starting to take hold. You're absolutely right about that. Unfortunately, It's not doing it in very many other industries. This is because technology is fairly forward-looking. There we are. It's the right way to go. Yep. But so this is an interesting question. Now, do you think that that's a good model for the rest of the recycling industry? I know you don't recycle glass and all the other things that waste folks focus on, but do you get the sense that we're doing it right in Washington in these states that are using extended producer responsibility?
I think that there's parts. So, I mean, I could talk specifically about the Washington program. I mean, I think there's parts of it that are fantastic because there are certain things, like especially like the TVs, it's a cost to recycle them. The leaded glass and the old TVs, there's no way you can recycle that for free, and there's no way that the recyclers can do it for free. So if you want to recycle it, somebody's got to pay for it. The person that wants to recycle a TV doesn't always want to pay for it, so they might just, throw it in the lake or something. I mean, that's where this stuff came out. Now, when this law first came out, it was a little controversial because it was more focused on getting computers recycled rather than refurbishment and reuse. And I was actually the guy that, I don't know how many years ago this was, maybe 10 years ago, I lobbied to change the law to focus on more reuse, and we successfully changed it to allow for more computer reuse. Because at the beginning, it said that essentially any computer that was collected by one of these members of the program had to get recycled. Even if it was like a newer computer, if it was collected, you had to recycle it. And I said, well, that's crazy. We need to pull computers out, refurbish, reuse them more. And they tweaked it a bit. And so it's definitely a better program now. And so I guess that's kind of a roundabout way of saying that these laws are fantastic. These consumer responsibility programs are fantastic. They don't always work as well as they as one would hope they would work, but I guess that's sort of, common for a lot of legislation, right? I mean,
sure, but at least you could change it. If it had been inflexible, then it would not be a good idea. But the fact that we are kind of making progress towards a better program is also kind of encouraging.
Yeah.
Now, you guys offer some great deals on refurbished laptops and phones. When somebody buys a refurbished phone or PC, how long should they expect it to be functioning?
So first, it really depends. I mean, not all used computers, not all used cell phones are the same, right? And what I mean by that is you can buy a used computer from anybody off of eBay, Craigslist, whatever, but it doesn't mean it's been tested. It doesn't mean that it's gone through any type of a process. So, you might buy a computer from somebody, you might die the next day. Now, we refurbish everything. We have a pretty stringent testing process. We warranty everything for 90 days. Mm-hmm. And so we're a little bit, I guess, different, a little higher end. But one kind of interesting thing is, sometimes used computers will last longer than new. And the point there is computer failures happen like within the first couple of days, right? So like if you buy a brand new Dell, it could die just because of a manufacturing problem or whatever. And so if it's used, it's kind of gone through that discovery process of like, okay, is there any type of manufacturer issue, whatever? It's been tested, it's been refurbished. And so once you buy a used thing, it's solid if it's been processed correctly.
So you also had this program, the Tech Access Program, that offers discounts to low-income buyers and nonprofits. How many devices have you sold through the program, and how does somebody qualify to participate in that program?
Well, I can't give you an exact count as to how many devices we've sold, but ballpark, hundreds, right? So I would say, a couple of months ago, we provided about 50 computers to the Goodwill organization down in the Tacoma area. They distributed about 50 computers through our program. Back, April last year, we sent about 100 computers to low-income students in California. Last week, actually, I shipped 100 computers to a nonprofit organization in Paraguay. So that was a really cool project. And we probably distribute about 10, 15 a week. It's a super popular program. Obviously, technology is a way of life these days. If you don't have a computer, you're out of luck. Especially now, where everybody is studying online. A lot of people are working online.
Yep.
I mean, imagine the needs. So this program was set up to make technology more affordable. I actually have kind of been involved in the charitable end of computer reuse refurbishing for many years before for this, I started a nonprofit that did this kind of a program, but it's available to any nonprofit, any low income. If you go to the website, store.3rtechnology.com, you can pick up a computer. I think the least expensive one is about $110.
So where do people go to find out more about 3R Technology?
Well, as I said, we've got our store, online store, store.3rtechnology.com, or our website in general is 3rtechnology.com. So either one of those.
Great. Hey, Charles, I want to thank you for taking time to talk to us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Well, folks, we were talking with Charles Brennick, Director of Business Development at eCommerce at Seattle-based 3R Technology. They're an electronics recycler who will give you a prepaid envelope to send in your old PC or smartphone, old monitors as well. Take the time to check them out at store.3rtechnology.com. 3rtechnology.com is with a numeral 3, not the letter it's spelled out. This is Mitch Ratcliffe, and you're listening to Earth911 Sustainability in Your Ear. We'll be back with another innovator interview soon. In the meantime, take care of yourself, take care of one another, and let's all take care of this beautiful planet of ours. We'll be back soon.